Parting is such sweet sorrow. Pint-sized populist Nicola Sturgeon is no more. And with her collapses the toxic legacy of the SNP like a house of cards. Scotland's governing Nationalist Party imploded this weekend after SNP Chief Executive Peter Murrell was forced to quit just weeks after his wife, Nicola Sturgeon, announced her shock resignation as First Minister. The downfall of Scotland's foremost political power couple followed revelations in the Mail on Sunday that the SNP had lied about its true membership numbers ahead of the leadership race. Critics feared the bogus numbers were being used by the SNP party machine to inflate support for Humza Yousaf, seen as the establishment's preferred candidate to take over as First Minister. In other words, Nicola Sturgeon 2.0. Humza Yousaf, a terrifyingly illiberal autocrat who drives around with no car insurance, asks a group of Ukrainian women where all the men have gone, and conveniently doesn't turn up for parliamentary votes on same-sex marriage, and whose hate crime legislation wanted to make it illegal to say something naughty in your own home, with the threat of a police visit if you'd said something untoward within your own four walls. That was a real policy. Arrested for something you say in your own home. Welcome to hell. Welcome to the SNP. There have been concerns about the SNP's financial arrangements as well, including a police investigation into how £600,000 worth of supporters' donations raised for an independence fighting fund were actually spent. And it widens fears that the current leadership campaign, which is turning nastier than a staff feedback meeting with Dominic Raab, could potentially be rigged. Rigged elections, folks. Proof, if you needed it, that the SNP risk turning the great nation of Scotland into a banana republic. Having failed to achieve their dream of independence, it's my view the SNP has been left with no tangible legacy other than infuriating more than half the population with their controversial trans policies, including the new self-ID bill, which allows a bloke to call himself a woman after about 10 minutes of thinking about it. Now, I exaggerate, but you get my point. This policy allows a biological, fully intact male to identify as a woman and to enjoy unfettered access to women's sex-based rights after just 3 months, and with no need for a professional medical diagnosis, leaving actual women, biological females, exposed to men in female changing rooms, in female toilets, rape crisis centres, domestic abuse shelters, you name it. This policy ultimately led to a male rapist going by a female name being accommodated in, wait for it, a women's jail. This was the trigger that ended it all for Sturgeon, in the way that the US authorities took down famous gangster Al Capone with a dodgy tax return. By cancelling women, Nicola Sturgeon cancelled herself. But now she's out, with the SNP mortally wounded and with Scots waking up to the wild incompetence of this regime. Eye-watering levels of drug deaths, the highest in Europe, a shocking attainment gap in education as well as in other public sectors, and a Scottish NHS which has a financial debt equivalent to 12% of Scotland's GDP. Public health in Scotland is atrocious, and it's not deep-fried Mars bars to blame. It's the SNP, who, with any luck, will be deep-fried by Scottish voters at the next election. Nicola Sturgeon is often compared to wee Jimmy Cranky, but I beg to differ because Sturgeon's rule has been no laughing matter. She's gone, and with her goes the SNP's magical hold on the great country of Scotland. Such is the state of Scottish Labour and the Scottish Tories. It will take a while for the political map to be redrawn. But you're witnessing the slow death of the SNP as a political force in Scotland, and with it, the case for independence. RIP SNP.